Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching and welcome to another Planet Zoo speed build. For those of you that are new here today, my name is Savannah, and in this video we are recreating, or at least attempting to recreate, one of the original aviary buildings from the Zoo Tycoon game. Zoo Tycoon came out in 2001, I believe it was, and it was another zoo management game where you built a zoo and cared for your animals. It had a lot of the same mechanics that Planet Zoo had, but also a lot of very different game mechanics, and overall I think was just one of the only other zoo management games out there. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I used to play the crap out of Planet Zoo, or Zoo Tycoon, sorry. Used to play the crap out of Zoo Tycoon and loved that game. I can remember coming home from school and trying to finish up my homework, finish up my chores as fast as I could, because all I wanted to do was get back into the game and build more zoo and add more animals, and, you know, every once in a while let the animals out to attack the guests, because I guess, you know, that was a game mechanic in it, and the animals would actually interact with the guests. And as a kid, that was a lot of fun for me. To be honest, if that was a mechanic in Planet Zoo, it might still be fun for me now. But that aside, this build I actually started a really long time ago, and actually so long in fact that you might notice some quality in the graphics of the video are a bit different, and that's because I originally started this on my first setup, which was a gaming laptop. I started my channel on a laptop, started playing Planet Zoo on a laptop, and Koa, hush. Sorry guys, I have my one dog in here because he's the good dog of my three and he's supposed to be quiet, but he was not being quiet. Good boy, now he's gonna be quiet, awesome. Anyway, sorry guys, I have two other dogs, and those two, every time I start talking and every time I start doing a voiceover, it's playtime to them, and they start growling and playing and wrestling, and it's just ruckus. So they're downstairs, but the one supposed to be good boy is up here. You guys probably didn't hear him, but he was gonna start barking. He saw something out the window, and I could tell he was gonna get real excited about it. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I started this on a laptop, and as we go through you'll notice that the quality changes. I moved over to my current setup, but I was still playing with the monitor and the picture settings and all that kind of stuff. So apologies if the quality isn't up to par on what my videos normally are. I hope it doesn't bother you guys too much. Also, it's been a hot minute since I put a video out, I know, but rest assured, just because there hasn't been a new video recently doesn't mean that I stopped building. In fact, I should probably stop building so much, because at this point I have so many projects going on, it's gonna take me forever to finish them all up. That's actually kind of how I combat getting burnt out with the game, is I get bored with things pretty fast, and I do like to keep myself interested and entertained. So I have a lot of things going on all at once, and that way if I kind of get bored building over here, I'll move to this project, and, you know, back and forth and things like that. But that also doesn't really make great quality content, I know, because a lot of you guys are waiting for different series. I've had a few people reach out to me asking where certain things are going to be. So just rest assured, I'm not stopping any of the current projects that are going on. So Hakea Wildlife Park, forgot the name of my own park for a second, River Rock Zoo, Sakura Zoo, the franchise zoo, which also still doesn't have a name, are still going to continue. I have about another week and a half or so left of my college semester. Then I'll be graduating, I'll be done, and I do have a whole bunch of new plans for the channel that I'm super excited to implement, but I just have had to put them on pause until I graduate. You know, it's college, it's taken up a lot of my priority, but also kind of needs to, because otherwise I'm paying a whole bunch of money for nothing if I don't take it seriously, if I don't pass, you know, things like that. Anyway, so that being said, I'm almost done with a few different things in those projects, including another habitat in Hakea Wildlife Park, our polar bear exhibit in River Rock Zoo. Finally, I know I have to do the interior, and to be honest guys, I've been putting it off because interiors are not my favorite things. Building the habitats are my favorite things. And then also some Christmassy things. Christmas is coming very soon. In 2 days, it'll be December December officially, so I'm very, very excited to get some Christmassy things, because Christmas is my favorite time of year, like I said, so putting out a few themed builds for that. Other projects aside, I did decide to release this particular build now because of the anticipation that I think a lot of the Planet Zoo community members are feeling, particularly in regards to when we're going to hear about a new DLC. There seems to be two big main themes or ideas people are asking for, and that is birds and aquatics. And I think that I have mentioned this on the channel before. I think both would be great ideas. I would be completely ecstatic to get either in the game. But I personally am kind of hoping more for birds. I'm a huge fan of birds. I work with parrots, and I think they're fascinating animals and interesting creatures, so they would be really exciting to have in the game. But I also think that they would add a few mechanics, at least if I imagine the way that I would want the birds to be implemented, add a few different things to the game that I think would be interesting and fun to play with as far as game mechanics go, but also kind of challenging. So for example, you know, if we're talking about adding arboreal birds specifically, so we have peafowl, we have flamingos in the game, but they're not arboreal, they're terrestrial, they walk across the ground. So if we're going to add birds that are going to be up in trees, that are going to be flying, we're going to have things in game that keep them from flying away. So you know, we have the ability to create roofs right now, but in this build in particular, you know, being an aviary, lots of zoos have big open netted aviaries that, you know, the many are walkthrough. You know, the San Diego, the Wild Animal Park, it's called the Safari Park now. One of the main things when you walk in on the right-hand side is a big walkthrough aviary, and it's just basically a giant net that keeps all these flighted birds in the enclosure. So something like that, I think, would be great if it could be implemented in the game, because that also takes into account height, the height variation, as far as, you know, a lot of those birds need room to fly up into the trees and aren't just going to be confined to the ground. Again, if we're talking about arboreal flighted birds. So I think that would be a really cool mechanic to add into the game, you know, and I think water animals would be a good addition to the game as well, because then you have to take into account, you know, at least I would hope, if they're adding things like that are going to swim, to have actual swimming mechanics where the animal is going to swim through the water. Maybe we'll see some bubbles, things like that, and not just kind of float on top of the water, because I think a lot of the species that the community is hoping for are going to be more swimming animals and not necessarily just floating on the top of the water animals. But on another note, kind of along the lines of that, I'm sure many of you guys have heard about the leaks that came from a video shown by, I think it was some animators, some developers from the game. Don't quote me on that, because I actually didn't personally see the video. I'm only hearing this secondhand from the different communities that I'm involved with, other creators talking about it. But it sounded like on a drop-down list of some animations for animals that they were working on, 4 different species came or were seen on that list, including the sun bear, the gray seal, the giant otter, and the king penguin. And this was a while ago, so some of you guys may have heard this already, but that's actually pretty exciting to see that sun bear, gray seal, giant otter, and king penguin are possibly on the rosters for future DLCs. You know, the gray seal, the giant otter, and the king penguin being 3 that absolutely would need swimming mechanics. They would need to be able to dive and swim in the water, you know, because they're not just animals that kind of float on water, especially the gray seal. The gray seal is going to spend the majority of its time in the water and not on land. So I would be extremely interested to see further information on that as to what they plan as far as mechanics and animations for those animals, and if those are going to be in the next DLC. You know, it is, I said, December's in 2 days. The kind of overwhelming theory in the community, I feel, is that sometime in December we're going to hear about an announcement for the next DLC, and I think that is just based on Frontier's general pattern. Maybe there's some information in there coming from the from the developers, but it feels like a lot of the community members are saying that December is all we have to wait for. So I'm hoping in the next week or so, maybe the first week, maybe the second week, actually hearing from the developers as far as another DLC. It does seem to be when the developers have a DLC to announce, it's kind of like, hey, here it is, and then, you know, it'll be here next week kind of thing. So we kind of hear really quickly before it's going to be announced, but I'll be really interested. Looking at those 4 animals, I can't really come up with a speculation on what they might be. You know, they're all kind of from different areas. The sun bears are from Southeast Asia. Gray seals and king penguins are both in the Atlantic Ocean, but gray seals being more in the northern part and king penguins being down in the southern part. And then giant otters are actually a South American species. And if they're going to continue to do these regional packs, you know, South America, Arctic, Australia, the giant otter being a South American species would be, you know, interesting. Their range might go beyond South America. I'm not too sure. I just know kind of the general area that they're from, so maybe they're going to count them as a different geographical area if their habitat kind of extends into other spaces. But other than that, you know, I can't really see a whole link between these 4 animals. And again, that's going off of if we see the general pattern of 4 animals and an exhibit animal, and then some themed pieces. You know, that's just kind of going off of if we're going to see the same thing. Who knows? They might change it up. The developers recently have been really good about listening to the community, I feel, just in terms of telling us that we've been heard. You know, I think a lot can be said for communication with the community, and, you know, it is their company, it is their game. At the end of the day, they are going to do what they feel is best, or what they have planned, or what they're capable of. But at least acknowledging that you do have a community of wonderful, both creators and gamers that are enjoying the game and have a really high expectation and hopes for what they want to see in the game, just making us feel a little bit heard and acknowledging ideas and things like that, because, you know, I don't know of too many other industries that kind of get that direct feedback. You know, like the people that are paying for your game are basically saying, hey, this is what I would pay for. And I think that it's not something that should be lost, you know, on the developers. And I don't think that it is. You know, there have been a couple developers that have come out and basically said, we heard you, thank you, you know, doing this, that, and the other. I don't know too much about what's been said, but I think saying a little bit more would go a long way, you know, because I, for one, would be completely happy if somebody said, hey, we're working on this, we really want to get it done, but it's just not going to happen in the next month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever the time frame is, you know, or give us little hints or sneak peeks of what they're working on. It's one of the reasons why I do that with my own personal channel. You know, when I'm working on a build, 1, I'm just so excited to show you guys. But 2, I want to let you guys know that I've not forgotten about my content. I've not forgotten about the builds. This is what I'm working on, you know, especially now in a time where I am going to school and not able to put out the content quite as much. I'm trying to keep everybody engaged, and I think that would go a long way with the developers with Planet Zoo as well, is keeping us engaged, not necessarily just with the content being released, but kind of hyping us up for what to expect and what to anticipate. But we'll see. So that being said, I am, of course, very excited. I'm not one that's kind of over the game or burnt out. I mentioned in a previous video that I actually have the fortunate issue of having way more ideas to build than time, and therefore I still have a lot that I want to do in the game, animals that I've barely touched. I really enjoy building in the game, and you know, to be honest, I see the game for the achievements that it has made so far, just in, you know, while we're talking about this build, because it is a Zoo Tycoon recreation build, just leaps and bounds better than Zoo Tycoon or Zoo Tycoon was, as far as graphics and animations and things like that. The limits of what you can do are much higher than in Zoo Tycoon or Zoo Tycoon 2 as the original base game. I think Zoo Tycoon has been heavily modded. I could be incorrect. I honestly don't get into mods or anything like that at all, so if I'm incorrect, please let me know. I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong, but, you know, Planet Zoo, just as the base game, I think has made a lot of leaps and bounds improvements over previous zoo management games, and there's not really anything else that comes to mind that is a management zoo game. And I am somebody that has a huge interest in zoos, zoological parks, animals in general. So maybe that's the difference. Maybe because I do already have a vested interest in the what's the word? Like the ideas or the topics rather of this game. Maybe that's why I haven't lost interest. And you know, everybody is different. Let me know what you think down below. These are just, again, my personal opinions. Everybody has a different idea of what they want to see or what they enjoy playing. But all that aside, I still am very highly anticipating, very highly awaiting a new DLC announcement because I can't wait to see what else we get. You know, I really did like the Australian DLC. I thought we got a lot of good pieces in that. You know, if you just look at how excited people were in the community about the marsupial animations as far as the koala and the kangaroos where the babies come out of their pouches and things like that. Just those little things the community was so excited for. So I really hope that whatever we see in the next DLC, we get something along those lines. You know, hopefully more, but at least something new, something different, something game changing. I wasn't around really playing Planet Coaster or in any communities as far as YouTube and creation or anything like that, because I have played the game. I do enjoy playing that game as well. But I wasn't around for when they were coming out with DLCs, when they first launched Planet Coaster, things like that. So I can't really speak to comparing and contrasting the two games together and how the developers have dealt with releasing DLCs and listening to the community and things like that. So I kind of won't touch on that because everything that I know is just being repeated by other creators and other content creators. So I don't know personally have an opinion on that because I wasn't around for that. Anyway, that aside, I also did want to take a moment to let you guys know that we did officially release a contest, a build contest on our Discord server. So if you're not part of the Discord server yet, there is a link down below. You do have to be 13 years or older to join, but if you are, I would be happy to have you there. The newest contest is called Creative Conservation. And I chose that conservation as the theme because it is something near and dear to my heart. It's one of the reasons I think zoological societies are a huge benefit to the animals that they care for in educating the public and getting the public to care about certain species, because we as humans have a tendency to care and fight for things that we have a connection to. And I think zoos are really good about creating those connections, and that's kind of one of their main purposes. So I'm very excited about this contest and seeing what you guys come up with, just keeping in mind conservation, education, and building a habitat for one of the critically endangered species in the game. If you guys want to see the full rules, the full guidelines, they're all listed out on the Discord channel, and there's also a channel on there for help, so if you have any questions, you can just tag me, and I will answer those for you. You have until January 8th? I think it's the first week in January, don't quote me. The due date is on the Discord, but I wanted to push it off so far. That way, everybody has a really long time to build because some people are slow builders. I'm a very slow builder, so I would certainly need that time. But two, because everybody's talking about a new DLC, for those of you that are gonna pick it up, I wanted you to be able to use those pieces, any of the build pieces. I don't know of any animals that are coming into the game that are critically endangered because we obviously don't know which animals are being included, period. But that way people have a chance to use the DLC pieces for the game. So if you want to join, head on over there. I would be happy to see you guys. The last thing that I wanted to talk about in tune with conservation education is the Keeper Talks. So we have actually gotten an update on, I think it's update 1.4, I think, that's going to be releasing Keeper Talks. And that I am so excited for because I have had education and kind of tour guides and things like that kind of at the top of my list for what I wanted to see, because I do think it's such an important aspect of zoos and what they should be doing. You know, it's not just about entertainment. It's not just about going to see these animals. It's about going to see these animals and learn about them. And by learning about them, you care about them. And then you can better help them in the wild with what they're struggling, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of why conservation needs zoological societies and parks like this to have people make a connection, because unfortunately, as important as it is, conservation takes a lot of funding, takes a lot of money, and they rely very heavily on donors. So I think that adding the keeper talks in the game, and especially hearing that the keepers or the educators that are going to be doing these talks are going to do some interactions with the animals, as far as like tossing food in for them, I think is phenomenal. I think that is one of the things that the community has been asking for. Just those little things, those little animations that make you feel these personal connections to the animals, I think is going to be great. So I'm very excited about that. I do plan to include the keeper talks, the educators, into a lot of the projects that I'm doing right now. In the Hakea Wildlife Park, the koala habitat actually has a keeper talk area, so I'll be really excited to see if I can make the game mechanics work with how I've set it up right now, but that's something to look forward to. I don't believe that they've announced when that update is coming, but it is going to be a free update. As far as if you have base game, you're going to be able to get that update, and you're going to be able to do those keeper talks with the educators and things like that. So very, very excited to hear more about that and see what they're gonna do with that. I know I talked very little about this build throughout the voiceover. I apologize about that, but I hope you guys have enjoyed. I do plan to put this up on the Steam Workshop because it is just a building. You'll have to put the path back in, but I hope that you'll find somewhere to use it in your zoos. And you know, right now there's not really any reason for a guest to go in here, but you could put an exhibit or maybe an education board or something to get them to go in there, or you can just have it and have it just be decorative. I do plan to do more of these. I am very excited about the way that this came out. It was pretty difficult to get the scale and all of that kind of correct, but it just took a little bit of time, and you know, then we got it, and I think it turned out really, really well. There are some end cinematics at the very end of this video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. As always, comments, feedbacks, suggestions, always welcome down below. If you haven't already, do consider subscribing. Let you know what other projects we're doing on the channel, help you keep up with what we've got going on, and then leave a like if you did enjoy, because it really does help me grow the channel. Until next time, thank you everyone. Bye.